Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Schickman. I'm an attorney and I work at Wingia Law, and this video is about how to start a medical spa. Medical spas is something that we really specialize in my law firm. We've helped over 60 medical spas start all over the country, and this video will go over the legal aspect of how to start a medical spa, the business aspects, and just some things to think about and plan as you're starting this kind of business. I was a general counsel of an aesthetics company, and I know it from the business side, I know it from the legal side, and my team and I have done a lot of these, and we hope that this video is helpful to you as you start on your own medical spa journey. This video is going to go over our medical spa Get Started Guide. It's a pretty comprehensive document that we provide to all of our clients once they retain our firm, and this video is going to be a short version of that document. Of course, if you have any other questions, please feel free to email us or go to our website and subscribe to our channel. We'll be publishing lots more videos about this topic. One of the first things to consider when starting a medical spa is picking out the right name for your business. The reason why that's important is because you want a name that's unique, memorable, and easy for people to remember. And even though your business is a medical spa or an aesthetics business, you don't necessarily have to have those words in the name. So think about Google, Nike, Facebook, some of the most common businesses that you know. They don't have the name of what they do in their name. They built a brand and developed a reputation around this new word that they chose for their brand. So to trademark a name, you definitely want to pick a name that's unique versus a name that's generic, like beauty or medical spa. And since you're picking a name that doesn't have generic words in your industry, like medical spa or aesthetics, you're picking unique words, that's going to be easier for you and for us to trademark it for you, meaning to give you the exclusive right to use that word as the name of your business and making sure that nobody else can use that same name. Another thing to consider when starting your medical spa business is your website and your social media. A lot of people think that you need a big fancy website to start, but we found that that's actually not true for a lot of our clients. A lot of our clients start with a very basic website, either a WordPress website, a Wix website, or something very, very similar. They buy a template on one of the template websites that we show them or they already know, and they get a website made for just a couple $100 or maybe a couple $1,000. You don't need to have a website for $20,000 or $100,000 to start. There's really no limit actually on how much you spend on a website, but it's something that you could always make better. So our advice is always to start and then make your website better, as opposed to waiting to have the perfect website. Because guess what? I've seen 1,000 aesthetic websites, maybe 5,000. None of them are perfect, and all of them, as soon as you create one draft of it and it's published, you realize the 10 things you want to improve. So definitely start with a website, not a perfect website, and go forward with that. But with your website, there's some important legal things to consider. Since you're providing a medical service, your website has to be accessible and ADA compliant. So we as a law firm can help you understand what that is and be compliant with that. You also have to have a returns policy, a privacy policy, and a terms of use on your website. Very important. And your business has to be compliant with those policies. We as a law firm can help you draft those, but make sure that you don't launch your website without them, because you don't want to be in violation of anything when you're running your business. So make sure you have your returns policy, your privacy policy, and your social media policy right on your website. Another important thing for your medical spa business is having a financial and business plan. What I mean by that is having a 12-month or a 3-year or 2-year forecast of how you think you're going to do, both from the revenue side and the expense side. We have found that our most successful clients are the ones who've done the most planning, especially around this area, both by writing a business plan, having a financial plan, and really looking at it month by month and asking yourself, how am I doing compared to this big plan that I put together? Another very important part of starting your medical spa business is marketing and advertising. A lot of people think that you just buy a bunch of machines and the people will come. They're gonna read your mind and see that you have a cool sculpting machine and you're gonna get a ton of appointments from the physician locator. That is simply not correct. The way you get clients to come into your medical spa is through doing lots of advertising. And I don't mean necessarily doing television ads or radio. A lot of the advertising that we're seeing that works is more digital advertising. Creating a sales plan and staff compensation program for your medical spa business is very important. And they go hand in hand, because what you incentivize your staff to do is what they will do. And what you don't incentivize them to do is what they will not do. Unfortunately, not many people do things just out of the goodness of their heart. They do what they're incentivized to do. So step number one there that we see people be successful with is creating a sales plan as part of your business plan. And what I mean by that is you're creating a 12-month forecast of what revenue you need to have. And let's say your 12-month revenue that you need to have is $1 million. Okay, so then per month you need to do, let's say 80,000. And how are you going to get to 80,000? What is that going to be composed of? How many Botox appointments do you need to have? How many Restylane appointments do you need to have? How many cool sculpting treatments do you have to do? And which providers are going to do them? And how much are you going to pay those providers? Another thing to consider is your revenue plan is only as good as the staff that you bring in and the contracts you have with the staff. So a lot of people use things like training reimbursements, non-competes, non-solicitation agreements, and we can help you draft any of those for your staff. But at the same time, it's important to know that you have to make your culture and your environment great for people to stay. And if they're staying because they signed a piece of paper, it's not going to be good. That piece of paper is not going to make them stay. What's going to make them stay is how you make them feel, how you treat them, and how good the practice is as a fit for them, culturally, values-wise. So make sure that when you hire people, they align with your culture and your values more than anything else. They could be the greatest salesperson, the greatest injector, but this cultural values alignment is really at the heart of it. Contractually, though, as a law firm, we'll make sure that you're protected, and we'll make sure that you have contracts where if somebody solicits your clients or competes with your business, that they are stopped from doing that. So recruiting great people and having good contracts with them is super, super important. More than how well these people can inject, more than how big of a book of a business they have. You can teach most people how to be a great injector, but you can't teach people how to be a good person and a good fit for your business. And so recruiting is something we think is very important. We review a lot of contracts for people, a lot of different employment contracts, but people don't stay at a business because of a great contract. People stay because of the way you treat them and how you make them feel. So just make sure that in this whole process, you don't lose sight of that. That's something very, very important. And in our Get Started guide, we have more information about this topic too. When starting a medical spa, one important question to consider is what's the right legal structure? And that really depends on who you are and what state you're in. These regulations vary state by state. So in many states, you need to have a professional corporation to offer medical services. And medical spa services qualify as medical services. So what that means is you can't really operate out of a regular LLC or PC. It needs to be a special professional corporation or a professional LLC. And we as a law firm will help you set that up. Another thing is many states prohibit what's called the corporate practice of medicine. And what that means is people who are not doctors in many states cannot open medical spas and be the medical owners. They can own management companies where they help make the business decisions in medical spas. And many of the bigger chains are structured this way, where there's a management company that's owned by business people or nurse practitioners, and then there's a medical company, and that's owned by doctors. So in many states, you have to structure things this way, and we as a law firm help you structure it, depending on the state, the correct way. One more complicated legal structure is this MSO-MSA structure. That's when there's a management services organization and a management services agreement. And we work on those agreements for our clients as well. And that works in many different states. And step number one is we say, okay, who are our clients? Are they business people? Are they medical professionals? Are they a combination? And then we can suggest the right structure to you. It doesn't have to be super complicated or very time consuming for you, but at the same time, very, very important to start with the right structure from the beginning. It'll save you a ton of headaches. Another thing that's going to be very important legally when you start your medical spa is having your pre-treatment questionnaires, your treatment consents, and all the different documents that your clients have to sign. Your HIPAA policies, your privacy policies, your social media policies. That stuff we definitely recommend getting a lawyer for because it can get very complicated and you want to make sure you get it right. And you also want to make sure that whatever consents you have your clients sign, that your insurance company sees them too, and that they approve those consents. Because you never want your insurance company to say, oh, sorry, your consents were deficient, you should have used our consents. So make sure that whatever treatment consents you have for your clients, that both your lawyers have looked at them and your insurance company have looked at them. In this business, having written plans and protocols is really helpful. Protocols are your friend. What I mean is the way that you want your staff to administer Botox, for example, precisely how you want them to do it. So for example, 20 units here with these certain injection points, being as precise as you can be in your written instructions, because you want to make sure that no matter which staff member is doing the treatments, that they're consistent and that they follow your protocols. So your protocols have to be easy to understand and very clear and specific. We have clients who even in their protocols write what kind of needles should be used, how the product should be reconstituted, how long it could stay refrigerated until it has to be thrown out. All these things have to be written out for your practice. We have some templates for this, or we can make them custom for you. Very important though to have them. That's another thing. If you get inspected by a board, one of the first things they want to see is what are the written policies and procedures that your staff is following. You have to make sure that you have them on site and they're in writing, and that your staff has seen them, knows them, and has signed off that they understand them. You can't have a business without a business bank account. You can't run a business legally out of your personal checking account. You have to have separate accounts for your business. So we recommend opening a separate account for your business as soon as we get your corporate paperwork done. Once you open that up, you also want to have a business credit card. What's great about this business is that you can buy a lot of the products, sometimes even the machines, but certainly things like Botox and fillers on credit cards. And so what that means is you buy the product today, you put it on your card, you have, let's say, 90-day terms from the vendors, so you don't have to pay for it for 90 days or 120 days, but your clients come in and they pay you for the product today. So your credit cards become a source of capital for you in this business, which is very rare. And a lot of businesses that we see, you can't buy the products on credit cards. So very important is to set up your business bank account and to have credit cards on which you buy the product. Just make sure you're monitoring that very closely, because you can get in trouble by spending too much when you have too much available credit. Quickbooks is a great software for this kind of business, and it can be linked right to your bank account. We definitely recommend using Quickbooks for your medical spa startup. It's very easy to start, it's very easy to sign up, and it's not expensive. And this way you can track your expenses, do lots of financial reporting, and just run your business from a financial perspective. Quickbooks, we believe, is one of the best softwares to use when starting a medical spa. One of the things that we spend the most time on and that our clients need the most help with when starting a medical spa is office space. There are a lot of options when it comes to finding office space for your medical spa. There are not that many requirements state by state in terms of how a room needs to be, whether it needs to have windows or how big it has to be or where it needs to be located to be a medical spa. But at the same time, there are lots of options. Do you want to be in a storefront? Do you want to be in a medical co-working space? Do you want to start big or small? We have clients who start with 1 room, and we have clients who start with 20 rooms. It really depends up to you and how much capital you have and what your plans are. Do you want to have a boutique practice or a very big practice? We negotiate all kinds of leases, from 1-room spaces to 20,000 square feet. We really think the ideal space to start with is probably somewhere around 1,500 square feet, where you could put 5 to 6 treatment rooms, maybe a little more, a little less. And we can show you some floor plans that have been effective for some of our clients that they've allowed us to share. But most of the time, it's really individual how big you want to go when you start. There's no right or wrong answer, but we've seen many different types of medical leases, and we could help guide you on what to watch out for, what kind of clauses never to agree to, what's market in your market, and how much it should cost. So the whole topic of finding the right office space becomes a big one because of so many different options. But just make sure that whatever you're signing, before you sign, that you have it reviewed by an attorney, because you never want to be stuck with a 5-10 year lease, and a lot of these commercial leases are really that long, where you're not able to make the payments or you've outgrown the space. Insurance is another important topic when starting a medical spa. You want to make sure that you have the right insurance and just the right amount, not too much and not too little, because insurance can get very expensive. We can introduce you to a couple of providers that we know people have worked with in this industry who are, we believe, fairly priced. And at the same time, we'll give you the right amount of coverage. But it's very important to have the right amount of insurance and the right insurance for the treatments that you're going to do. And that every single treatment that you're doing is covered by your insurance policy. And that you're having the right providers do that treatment. So if, let's say, you have your nurse practitioner covered under your insurance for doing Botox and Dysport, but actually you're having your registered nurse do it, that's going to be a problem if there's ever a claim. You want to make sure that all of your providers who are doing the treatment are covered for that treatment. And we can make sure about that for you. And we can also give you some guidance on what are good insurance prices. A lot more on this is in our Get Started guide. Another thing that we should talk about when starting a medical spa is vendor accounts. What I mean by vendor accounts is, what supplies are you going to order? What products do you need in order to run your business? What machines are you going to buy? The advice we always give our clients is to make your initial menu of services as narrow as possible. Offer 3 different treatments or 5 different treatments, 10 different treatments, but don't try to buy every machine under the sun, all the latest and greatest technology, all the different types of dermal fillers, Botox. You don't need to have every brand of products. Just pick one brand of toxin to start with, one brand of filler, one machine, maybe no machines to start with. But every service that you have adds complexity, adds legal challenges, adds costs, and adds money and inventory that you have to have on your shelves. So start with 3, 5, 10 services at the most, and then go from there. Don't try to offer everything to everyone. You're not going to be able to focus on making everything profitable. You don't need to give people everything. You just need to say, we're going to be good at these 3 to 5 things. Let's start with that. And let's make sure that business-wise and legal-wise, we're 100% covered on those and we're maximizing those. And then you could always move on and do more. Having really great staff that's well-trained is a great asset to have for your medical spa. And if you are your own staff, you also have to make sure that you have great training before you begin. The training is what's going to get you great results, and it's going to keep you legally protected as much as possible if there's ever a problem. So what I mean by training is there are lots of live injection courses that you can take, and you could also get on-label training from the vendors who sell you the products. So from the makers of Botox or the makers of your laser, you can get on-label training once you become their customer. And what I mean by on-label training is every product is FDA approved that you're using for a certain thing. And you can get training for that certain thing. So let's say if Botox is approved to treat the muscles here, you can get training to inject Botox to relax these muscles. But Botox for platysmal bands may not be FDA approved, and so you're not going to be able to get that type of training directly from the makers of Botox. But you can get off-label training from the people who do off-label trainings. And we can make some introductions for you if you want that kind of training. But training is very important. It's going to also be important for your insurance applications because they're all going to ask, how much training do you have in this particular area? And the more training you have, the cheaper your insurance will be. And at least theoretically, the less likely you are going to have adverse events, especially the ones that are due to lack of training. So make sure that you have great training and that in your treatment plans and protocols that you have the training required outlined. So none of your staff who's not trained is doing procedures that they have no training for or inadequate training for. So the training is something very, very important, and we can help you with the training as well. It's very important to select the right booking software for your medical spa and to load your treatment consents and questionnaires into the software. You don't want to be using paper charts. Paper charts are not secure. Paper charts are not scalable. You can't access them remotely. They're just not the way of the future. Whenever we have clients who come to us and they're using paper charts, we usually encourage them to go paperless, to find a great cloud-based software. We have a whole list of softwares that we're familiar with that we recommend in this industry, but there are lots of options. So just make sure that you're using the right software and that you make it easy for clients to book with you. What I mean is you have to have, in this day and age, online booking. People shouldn't have to call you to make an appointment. They should be able to do it 24 hours a day on the internet. And there are many softwares that do that. So please make sure that you're using a booking software where people can book with you online, and that those treatment plans are being followed, and also that your policies about appointments and refunds and pre-bookings and all that is loaded into your software. And we can help you with all those policies. Having the right staff at your medical spa is one of the most important parts of starting a medical spa business. Even if you're going to be your own staff in the beginning, it's just important to structure things the right way. So hiring people. Are they an employee? Are they an independent contractor? What kind of contracts do you have in place? How are you paying people? How often? We've seen a lot of issues where if payroll is missed even by one day, people get extremely upset and it gives them rights to claims against you. So you definitely want to make sure that your employment stuff is very organized and that you have systems in place and policies in place and that you enforce them. Let's say for some reason that you want everyone at your workplace to wear business casual or scrubs or something else, or you want people to arrive 15 minutes ahead of their shift. You want to make sure that that policy is in writing, is in your employee handbook or some other place, and that people have signed off on it. If people never saw it and never signed it, you could not enforce that policy against them. So make sure you have a great employee handbook. We can help you with that. And that you have your different policies in there. Everything from attendance to appearance and to what's going to happen if something happens and you need to give somebody a performance warning. Do you have a progressive discipline policy, or are you just going to fire people the first time that something bad happens? Those are some of the things that you need to think about when starting this kind of business, because the people in this business are such a key aspect of it. You want to make sure you have clear and consistent policies that are also compliant with your state rules. That if you have to pay people overtime, that you're paying them overtime, that you're compliant with minimum wage, that you're giving people lunch breaks, and that you're not discriminating against people based on one of the things that you can't discriminate against. Very important to really make sure that your HR issues are buttoned up, because HR is such a critical part of this business. We've seen a lot of companies fail because of HR, even if they were great, had a great reputation, had great injectors. If the HR is no good in this business, nothing else can be good. So the HR is very important, and make sure that you involve your attorneys in that before bringing it to your staff, because you just want to make sure that your HR documents and everything that you do is compliant. People often ask us, what are some good financial benchmarks or accounting benchmarks that we could look at for this business? How much profit can I expect? How much revenue can I expect? And this is really individual and depends where you are, how staffed you are. But here are some rough guidelines. We see that one injector or one provider generates between $500,000 to $1.5 million in revenue per year. Again, this varies, but that's what we are seeing, between $500,000 and $1.5 million. And what kind of profitability can you see from that number? We see around 20% after all expenses are paid, after you pay people's salaries, after you pay for product, after you pay your rent. And if you use Quickbooks or any one of these other softwares, it's pretty easy to see these numbers once you have them set up. But we definitely recommend from the beginning making sure that all your transactions are reconciled in one of those softwares to make sure that you're really tracking everything correctly. So those are the type of numbers you can expect to see. but it really depends on both what your revenue is, what your expenses are, and how big or small you're starting. In the beginning, if you're starting with, let's say, one room and you're the injector and you're not really paying yourself, of course, you're going to see much higher profitability. But that profitability may not be sustainable as you hire employees. So just make sure that if you're talking to someone and they tell you, oh, I'm seeing 30% profit, that you understand what expenses they're counting in that profit, because it may not be everything. So you want to make sure that you compare apples to apples. This business can look very, very different depending on how you calculate different things and how you're set up. And so make sure that whenever you're talking about financials, that you're talking about the same thing. A question we get asked often is, what kind of equipment should I buy for my medical spa? So besides the Botox or besides the IV drips, what kind of chair should I get? Do I need a fridge? Does it need to lock? What kind of lighting do I need? And there are many different options for that and lots of different vendors that we know about who do this kind of stuff. But just on a very basic level, some of the things that you're going to need is a treatment chair or a facial bed, as it may be called. You're going to need a fridge, most likely, if you're going to do things like Botox. In some states, that fridge has to be able to lock. So you could either buy one that's locking or buy a lock for it. Sometimes you need to make sure that it has a thermometer in it. And you have to have good lighting. Good lighting is going to be key to having great before and after pictures. It's going to be key to your providers being able to see your clients as much as they can. So the brighter the lighting, the better. And you want to make sure you have consistent lighting from room to room, so that if you take your pictures, no matter what room you take them in, that they look consistent and clear. So the lighting becomes very important. Another thing is you want to make sure you don't have a ton of stuff in your offices. That comes into play with OSHA compliance also. If you have lots of wires and lots of things in areas that can get dirty, that becomes a problem. So make sure that, at least in the beginning, when you're setting up your office, it's not overly cluttered and not full of lots of things that you're not going to need. Get the basics, and we can tell you what those are, but don't go crazy stuffing your office with everything possible. OSHA training is another important thing for starting a medical spa. What I mean by OSHA training is OSHA has these different standards for bloodborne pathogens, or for how your room has to be in terms of not having trip hazards. And so you have a couple of different standards that every medical spa needs to meet. And what you can do is just look on the OSHA website for those standards, and we can help you identify what they are and how they apply to you. And then from your different vendors, a lot of times they offer either free or discounted training for it. So for example, one vendor would be a sharps compliance types of vendor, where you take your sharps, your used syringes, and you send it to that vendor, or they come to pick it up. Together with that, they usually offer a sharps compliance or bloodborne pathogens training program online. So you would do that training through them because it would be a lot more economical than doing it from some other third party. Another very useful program that OSHA offers is they can send an inspector to you in a confidential way where you don't get in trouble. So you just do basically a voluntary audit where somebody comes to your office from OSHA and they show you everything that they would think is wrong. And then you make a plan to correct it, and that's it. But you don't get in trouble, and they tell you what's wrong or what are the opportunities to make it better. That's a great way to do your OSHA training and compliance, and they will tell you what's wrong with it. And this is available in most states. You schedule it through your local state OSHA website. So the OSHA compliance is very important, but there are great ways to do it that will make sure that you're compliant, but are also not prohibitively expensive. For more information, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us on Instagram at Lingia Law, or go to our website, www.lingialaw.com. We love helping entrepreneurs. We love helping healthcare businesses. And we look forward to seeing you soon. If you have any question, big or small, just contact us. Chances are we have the answer.